Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, it's good to be with you guys today. Really good time of worship. It's just lingering right there. It's very fitting today. So we're continuing to be in this series, The Sayings of Jesus. And today we're going to primarily land in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. And some of us might be familiar with that. But you can turn there if you want to right now. You can follow along in the YouVersion Bible app under events, and you can find us located there under the church. And welcome everybody online as well to be with us. And so this message strikes me because it's so life, and how we walk through life and the journey that we're all on individually, and where we've been in life, and maybe where you're even at now. But I pray that corporately that we learn to do these things so that we can walk with others, to lay these truths and principles out so that we can truly be disciples of Christ. And I think at times we can do it well. I know for me, at times I can do this really well. And then there's times I just utterly, I don't want to say fail, don't do it well. And I blow it, but just don't do it well. And so in my own journey, and think about some scenarios in your own life where you felt overwhelmed. And have you been in that place? Is it fresh in this week you felt overwhelmed? Is there a big scenario that just pops into your mind over the years, and you just kind of land in something that for you was overwhelming? And think of that, because we sometimes diminish how we respond and react to things in our lives and what we feel overwhelming. And sometimes people can be like, well, that's all you're dealing with? Or that's what, well, for you it might not be, but for that individual and for you where you're at in your journey, and it's not like one is better, just where you're at in your journey of God working in your life and what you've learned to lay down before Him and what you're still learning to lay down before Him, what you're carrying that you shouldn't be carrying, and how you've dealt with things. So I can look back and see numerous occasions that I've carried things that I shouldn't be carrying, when everybody around me is going, it's going to be okay, we're here with you, we're praying for you, and you're still just freaking out and thinking the worst of the worst, and then you land on the other side and go, oh, none of that happened. None of that occurred. And I find myself even at moments where I'm carrying something and I thought I'm not carrying this any longer, but then something happens and I take it back and start carrying just a little bit, because I start to freak out for just a moment, but not as long, So I want to introduce us to this verse that probably many of us know, and if you don't, Matthew chapter 11. I'm going to read 3 different versions or translations on this. They're going to be on the screen. You can follow them on your notes as well. And so I'm going to introduce this verse. It says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. It starts this way. Then Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Another, that was in New Living Translation. This in New King James right here. It says, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. One more for you. New NIV. It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you the rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And I'm sure each one of you in the room or online can pick up on certain words. And we probably, a lot of us land on those same words that you are seeing that God's saying to do and saying that He does. So I want to acknowledge this, that this universal experience that we all experience, that we all face. We all face being tired at times. Yeah? Even if you don't say nothing, you can just bobble your head around or something. And that's not Tourette's. I don't have Tourette's. I'm not saying anybody does. I'm not saying. No, that's okay. I'm just gonna say. I remember a band we had come to Page, and some of you probably know the lead. He's a worship pastor. He's been in some big churches now, but he had a band member that played the drums, and they told us, they were like, "Don't freak out if all of a sudden he just hollers at something," or and it could not be a nice word. And it was great. It was great to see him, connect with him, and have him be a part of leading worship. All right. The invitation here. So, all of us experience feeling tired. And all of us, whether we realize it or not, get stressed. Right? That we feel it, sense it, or we deny it, but it's still there. Some of us are worried all the time. Some of us worry too much. And all of these things do one thing. They weigh you down. They weigh you down. I was watching a show with my wife and daughter yesterday. And in this series on Netflix, there's this young man that at every moment they'll say something and he'll just smile super big. Like super big all the time. Just, And in that, I started thinking about sometimes how we react. Like we carry all this stuff, but sometimes we try just to smile all the time. Because we don't know how to respond or how to release this stress, this feeling of being tired, the things that are weighing us down. And we do our best to smile. And I've said this before, but I see it every week at school. And everybody's living the dream and smiling. And it's good. And I'm so ready to start saying, "Are you really?" Because you're telling me you're good 99.9% of the time and hitting 100 really close. And so I want us to think about the words, "Come to me." And Jesus shares this, "Come to me." And then there's going to be a few scriptures I mentioned that you're just going to have to open your Bible and do a quick search on Google or wherever you're going to for the scripture. And I actually was going to bring my Bible up here, but I brought the wrong one and the print is really small. And I'd have to have these lights cranked all the way up to see it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to use my phone. But sometimes you miss the pages turning. So, all right. Luke chapter 18 and verses 16. I want you to understand what he's saying when he's telling us to come to him. All right, in this verse it says, "Then Jesus called for the children and said to the disciples, 'Let the children come to me. Don't stop them. For the kingdom of God belongs to those who are like these children.'" And you land on those words that say, "Come to me." We are God's children. And when you're a child and when you are a parent, you want your kids to be able to come to you. for their peace, their security, you want them to be able to come to you as a little kid that they're struggling. You want them to come to you. And maybe they don't even communicate everything to you, but just come to me. Let me, when they're little, you just want to hold them, and they let you hold them. As they grow older and older, they don't do that so much. But with Christ, He wants you to have a childlike faith. He wants you to be able to come to Him with whatever's on your heart and mind, the things that we are carrying. He wants you to come to Him. This incredible invitation that Christ has given to us. He doesn't say with His disciples, keep them away from me. They're bad. They've done things this week that I can't believe they've done that. He goes, no, they're my kids. And they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to struggle. They're going to carry things. They're going to learn wrong ways to carry things. And proper ways to carry things. Think about it, right? When we're young, we could grab whatever, super heavy. We just lift it up and toss it. I heard my dad say this past week, I think. And we just lift it and we move it and we just... But then you find out from a doctor, physical therapist, and they tell you that you're supposed to lift this way. Why is that? That's so that your back doesn't go out. You don't blow your back. You don't tweak something. You don't feel like lightning just hits you. There's a way that God then, as well, teaches us to carry and not carry things. All right? So, come to Him. And so this morning the question is this, like, what are you carrying? What burdens are you carrying today that you should not? You know you shouldn't. I know I shouldn't be, but I still am. What do I do? How do I accomplish this? I don't want to any longer. What is the burden in your life right now? I just looked up some statistics, and you could do a quick Google search and do the same thing, right? That's not specific. But it says 77% of adults reported experiencing stress in the past month, according to the American Psychological Association. 77%. That's a whole lot, right? I'm not good at math, but I understand that's a lot. That's moving to that 100% range, right? Common stressors. Man, I bet you can figure this out. In your what's some common stressors? Just think about it. Think about it. You got it. Common stressors include work. You know about my job. It was great. I hope I can get these guys to church one day. But the one guy said, man, it's just been one a week. And I'm going, I didn't have to make any major decision. It's pretty easy. Like, I'm going, it hasn't been a bad week. I mean, yeah, the kids you got fights going on. That's always happening before I get to school. I'm like, oh, never mind. I want that to happen when I'm there. But, kids wreck the restrooms, tear down dividers, and the one guy's just, one of the guys with me is just like, I just don't hear these kids get by. I'm like, they're kids. I'm like, I don't have to do anything. I just got to watch it. If they do something wrong, I could report it to the person. I don't need to carry that. I'm not stressing over that. That's not mine to stress over. That's the vice principal's job to stress over and figure out how he wants to accomplish that. This is, all right. So it's how one person responds to things, but the other one is responding to things. So work can be a stressor. Here's a good one, unless you're just a billionaire, or unless you're Elon Musk, or unless you're like Bill Gates or something. Finances. Finances could be a stressor, right? Yeah. Health can be a major stressor. We were just dinner with a couple and a pastor in the area, and he's dealt with some very similar situations. And when you first get certain news, right, you feel it, and you get emotional, you get heavy-hearted. And I remember being heavy-hearted when I first started dealing with my headaches back in 2014, and we were transitioning. If anything, it should have lightened my load. It shouldn't have added anything, but and I had to go to the doctor, and you go to your primary, care doctor, and then they go, well, we don't know. You need to go to another doctor, and then you get them to do a CT on you and go, oh yeah, you got something there. I'm like, oh, my brain is there, saying thank God. But you got something extra right there. All right, we're going to do a spinal tap on you, and we're going to check this, and get fluid out of your spinal, and just go through all things. And they come back, everything was good, and the doctor's like, yeah, you probably just had this on your brain your whole life. It's not affecting anything. But when we first heard the news of that, I can tell you we were in the Walgreens parking lot, and it like they tell you have something on your brain, you're like, you don't go to the best scenario, you're like, I'm dead. Right? So anytime health, we can stress over it. It can hit us hard, right? And then if you have to deal with it for a long period of time, or if you've had multiple situations in your family, it's a stress, right? Relationships. How many know relationships can be a stress? God, for some reason, wants us to have relationships with one another, connect with one another, love one another, and realize you're not alone. But then these relationships can get so messy, and then you start carrying things and you start processing them, and you're like, oh my gosh. Can I just be a hermit? Can I just be a monk in a monastery? And I'll be around people. No, it's not the way it works. So, life's events, common stressors, right? All right, impact of health, all those type of things. And when stress happens, it can affect our body in a major way, right? We can risk chronic diseases because of stress, heart issues because of stress, stroke because of stress, depression because of stress, mental health. 49% of adults report that stress has negatively affected their mental health. It's like half, all right? Let's just say half. Surprise you? It doesn't surprise you. I don't know. Anxiety. 43% of adults report feeling more anxious than usual in the past year. And we always go, man, we have so much in our life should help us. We should be less anxious about that. But we're not. Depression. 33% of adults report feeling depressed due to stress. Workplace stress. 65% of workers report that their job is a significant source of stress. Several could say amen to that, right? Financial stress, 74%. We all deal with stress. And we all carry stress. And it's not that stress is not there, but it's how we learn to handle things like stress. So I want to look at this verse in 11 verses 28. And it says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened. And when you look at the Greek, sometimes it's fascinating, just let it lay out when you look at the Greek. And that idea of worry, that being weary and burdened, okay? It's this weary idea is to feel fatigued, tired, exhausted by work, by laboring, or working to the point of exhaustion. It conveys a sense of diligent effort, perseverance, often in the context of physical or spiritual work. So we can think about the physical aspects of things, right? Like physically, I don't feel as exhausted as when I was weed eating at going on 50, weed eating every day, and go, no, I'm a little more tired. I come home and plop in a couch chair and fall asleep. It's 6 o'clock. It's not just, that's easy kind of to think about. Work can be exhausting. All right, but it's the idea of on the spiritual side of things that we're going to really look at. And this term implies not just the act of working, but the accompanying fatigue and weariness that result from exhaustion. So worry, being weary, being tired, being exhausted. And you think about the things that, your job might not be physically exhausting, or things at home might not be physically, but just your emotional and your mindset and your soul just feels it. You're just weighed down. And when you look at the Greek on this, on being heavy laden, it's talking about a load, burden. It conveys the idea of placing a heavy load that can be difficult to bear. Be hard to carry everything. I was thinking of a fun illustration on this. Because I was thinking about not just a heavy load, just have you ever went to the beach? And when you go to the beach, you have all this stuff. And you have all this stuff that you got to get from the house to the beach. And when you head to the beach, maybe I'm learning, head to the beach and you grab stuff. You try to grab everything you can in your hands. And you're hauling this stuff out to the beach. This is supposed to be fun right now. And it's probably worse with different age kids, right? You're trying to make this, and you got kids in one hand and 5 chairs in the other, and stuff thrown on your head, and you're going to the beach. Man, this is nice. And you're carrying something that's not just heavy, it's just difficult to carry. And you head to the beach. This idea that in life, he's saying, come to me with your burdens, with what's heavy, what you're carrying that's loaded you down. So think about anything that you've carried that's super heavy, and you move a little slower, right? If you're just carrying something physically heavy, you're moving a little slower than if you're just walking somewhere. And Jesus is wanting to relieve you from all that because he wants you to have a good relationship with him. And have a good relationship with him, you are not meant to carry certain things in your life. And so I want to look at this. This was a great thing that I came across from somebody. It said, we carry our burdens, we bury our burdens, or we marry our burdens. And I was like, yeah, that's just some new terminology on some things of what I talk about when I talk about throwing stuff in a backpack. When you carry something that's weighty, you attempt to carry it yourself. You might even attempt to talk to someone or be vulnerable, but you attempt to carry this all by yourself. You're afraid to share it with someone, right? You're afraid to show that you actually might need help. I used to carry the burden of ministry by a show of how it looked on the outward appearance. Like I know everything, know how to handle myself. You haven't been in ministry 2 days and somehow you know and you can handle it all by yourself. Was it meant to be carried alone? Maybe for you, you carry something in your own life Or you have a pattern of carrying it and picking it up in your own life. And even though you tell someone, you don't tell them the full scoop. You don't tell your community the full scoop. Your circle, your circle, your table, you don't tell them. Man, so want to be people that learn from Jesus. Learn from the Lord that says, come to me. Let me carry that load for you. Let me walk with you. Let someone else come along with you to hold you up. It is so mind-boggling that he goes, in your weakness, I am strong. When you are weak, you are strong. When we are weak, we rely on Jesus. You cannot carry, and we're not meant to carry it all. There's a responsibility and all. You're not meant to carry this all. But I know someone that can. We bury. You suppress you just take it to shove that thing down. You don't want to ever see it again. It's the only way you've learned to cope. You try. I'm not going to think about it. And what do? You think about it. When you're going through major stress moments, you're worried, and you're just taking that, and you're carrying it all, and you just, I don't want to carry this. I don't want to carry this. But then we keep our attention on it. We keep our attention on the storm instead of having our attention on Jesus. What you give your attention to is what you become. Are you married? You wake up with it everywhere you go. It is stuck with you. It's with you always. Anxiousness, distress, it's just part of who you are. And you just go, it's just part of me. I'm just an anxious person. I'm just a worrywart, right? And I'm not talking about clinical things. I'm talking about what the doctor said to you. But in general. Because I get it. There's times in my life that certain crises and trauma happen that I got real anxious. You would have panic attacks where you felt like your heart was going to jump out of your chest. And you just break down crying. You go like, what the heck? Like anytime, it's like, what the heck just happened? In general, we're not meant to carry. We're not meant to marry your issue, your burden. You're not meant to bury it. He says, come to me. We go to a lot of other things before we go to the Lord. I do too. So many times, all I'm talking about is the issue. And instead of actually sitting before the Lord and realizing, that's my dad, that's my father. And I want to trust him. And so you give that thing to him. You go, I don't want to carry this. So the first thing he says is just come to him. If you don't come to him, he can't help you, right? But if you come to him, he can. And he's going to give you something. He's going to give you what? The promise that he says, I will give you rest. I will give you rest. That's his promise. That's what God, he said, Jesus goes, come to me with what's heavy on, what's loaded on you, that you cannot bear your own. That truck is loaded down so heavy, it's on the axles, and it's about to blow the tires out. But all you had to do is give it to him. The meaning of rest is this idea of to refresh, and to give rest. To refresh you. Because how many times have we been on, this is what we do. We want to get out of our life, right? And go to the mountains, and go to the beach, and hit your bucket list, to get away from this life that's just causing you. And you go and you get to sleep in if you want. You get to sit outside with a cup of coffee. It's just beautiful, and hear the waves crash, and just a beautiful morning. The birds are flying, the sun's just coming up. And you feel for a moment. And you do that for a few days that week. And you're going, man, I'm going to eat what I want to eat this week. This is fantastic. Right? I'm going to eat as many pancakes as I want. French toast. The whole loaf is mine. Then I'm going to go lay on the beach. Cooler next to me. Kick back, drinking, and this is refreshing. This is beautiful. And this is what we want for our whole life, right? Because we always wish we could, this is the way life should be. This is how we should live life. But the vacation ends. And you drive back, a long drive back. Cars loaded down. You're having to stop too many times because people have to pee. And travel back. You blow a tire. You got a storm. So because this rain is so heavy now, you can't drive 95. And then you get back and you have to go to work Monday morning. And you're going, oh my God, these people are still here. And that same person does the same thing. And you think about the rest you just had. You were living that dream that everybody talks about. Everybody tells me in school, living the dream. Everybody's living that dream. I'm like, I want some of that dream. But then you have real world, and it hits again. And all of a sudden, you're carrying that same thing again. All of a sudden, you got the same knot in your back. You go, man, it just went away when I was on the beach. And now it's right there again. You have the pit in your stomach again. You have that one person that you can't do everything for, and no matter what you do, you can't solve their issues. But Jesus is talking about a rest that he can give. That's beyond what physically, beyond what we can do for our own souls. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just relax. And I believe what Jesus has for us is ways that we can relax, ways that we can function in this life. And he's telling us. He's telling us the ingredients. I know we don't always like to follow the instructions. I'm trying to make protein balls yesterday. But I don't want to read the instructions, and my wife has to get up no matter what. She's in here helping me in the kitchen. Like, I had it. I just probably would not have read the recipes and just dumped some oats in there and went to town. Matthew chapter 8, verses 25. I'll read three scriptures right here. Matthew chapter 8, 25. It says, the disciples went and woke him up, shouting, Lord, save us. We're going to drown. Jesus responded, why are you afraid? You have so little faith. Could you imagine? You tell somebody that? Have you ever told somebody that? How was that response? But Jesus says, why are you afraid? The idea here was Jesus was resting. But the disciples, They were restless. Jesus was resting. Not because there wasn't a storm around. He's showing a pathway, and he's showing his disciples. Storms can be raging. Crises can be happening. And you can still have this ultimate thing called rest. Luke chapter 6, verses 12. And it says, one day soon, Jesus went up on a mountain to pray. And he prayed to God all night. At daybreak, he called together all of the disciples and chose the 12. This was a time of Jesus choosing his disciples. And what did Jesus do? And we're going, man, he's part of the Trinity. He's part of God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But he went to pray. And it says, he prayed to God all night. I know we're not Jesus. I know that could be a thing. We can go, we're not Jesus. Yes. But even Jesus took time. And he prayed all night for direction, for peace. All night. John chapter 6. Verses 15. When Jesus saw they were ready to force him to be their king, he slipped away into the hills by himself. This time they're trying to go, you're king, you're it, you're the man. And Jesus, he slipped away. Now in this group, we've talked about here at church, we've talked about this idea of solitude. Jesus did that. He sought rest when he was distraught. So he's given us principles of how not to be heavy laden, burdened, or weary. He's saying there is a way to find true rest in the midst of being restless. When pressure is all around, he's showing us he went to pray. He's showing us when there's things going on that's large in your life, it's okay to have a moment to get away, right? And quiet ourselves. Quiet our heart. Quiet our breathing. And sit. And so true rest comes in this way. It comes this way. It comes because you know Jesus. You know him. So you have a personal relationship with him. And then this idea, we talk about the journey all the time. In theology, sanctification. Some of church people know that. But it's that journey. It's this journey. And then, because we know him and we're in this journey together, we find this eternal rest. Because there's coming a time where we'll have perfect peace. Perfect resting in him. But while we're in the process, know him. And he's going to teach us a couple things in a minute. But when we worry, here's some more statistics about some things. It says, an estimated 50 to 7 million Americans have chronic or ongoing sleep disorders. This is because of stress, worry, right? Insomnia, between 10% and 30% of adults struggle with insomnia. Raise your hand. No amount of sleep helps at all with your rest. No amount of sleep helps me to focus. We have long work hours, low interaction. We can do this. We can have low work hours, lower our screen time, start cutting some things out of the way, and it could maybe help. But most of us, we have work. I got to work 40 hours. Maybe you say I have to work 60 hours. So if that's what you have to do, then we have to find ways, as Jesus demonstrates, to find true peace and rest in Him. A study by researchers at Penn State University found that 91% of the things people worry about never come true. 91%. Man, I think about some of mine and go, oh yeah, it didn't end as bad as I thought it was going to end. Still wasn't fun, but the things I was worrying about. Another study reported in Psychology Today revealed that 91% of participants' worries did not. Of the remaining 9%, the outcomes were often better than expected and taught us something. So he also found that higher percentages of untrue worries significantly predicted lower anxiety symptoms after treatment. In some cases, participants reported that none of their worries materialized. So none of them happened. Study also found 85% of what subjects worried about never happened. And with 15% that did happen, 79% of subjects discovered either they could handle that difficulty better than they expected, or that difficulty taught them an important lesson. Stress and worry. He says, take my yoke. That yoke, hence, a Jewish idea, right? And those that maybe worked or on farms, or you've been taught that this idea of a heavy burden is comparable to the heavy yokes resting on the bulls, the bullocks, whatever they call them, with a balance of two individuals with this wooden contraption put on them so that they could carry or they could pull a hard load. Primarily refers to a yoke, a wooden beam used to join two animals together, pulling a very heavy load. A burden. In the New Testament, it's often used to describe the obligations of burdens placed upon individuals, whether religious rules, like they had over 600, I think, laws that they're supposed to hit on. All of them laws. We would say that's very legalistic today. But Jesus is saying, His yoke is what? His yoke is easy. That doesn't sound like it's an easy yoke. That doesn't sound like it would be easy to carry. If the idea, the burden and the weariness and that load is heavy and it's hard to pull, but He's saying, my yoke is easy. And it's offering us a way to live in this state of peace and rest. And He goes in, learn from me. Learn from me. This is, what does Scripture say again? Go back here real quick. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and lowly in heart. And you will find what? You will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is what? It is light. It is not heavy. You are not to be carried in. If it's so heavy that you can't move, it is time to take upon the yoke that is easy and learn from Him. And learn from Him. Yeah, I heard somebody talk about when they would tie up the oxen, or they put a new one on a younger, they keep a mature animal on one side, yoked up with the new, inexperienced, don't know what's going on. They're hooked up, they don't know quite what to do. They hook up so that one can learn from the experienced one. That one took most of the burden because they knew that animal knows what to do when it's hooked up. It knows to pull. It knows it's going to be heavy. It knows. The other one hasn't learned yet. So, what do we attach ourselves to? Who do you attach yourself to? You want to add Jesus. And it's not adding, like, you're going to add Jesus like you're adding another tool to your toolbox. No, that's not it. You're learning away from Jesus. And now he's showing you a way. Just like that animal. It's teaching the other one. So we are learning to look like, to live like, and to act like Jesus. If we're choosing to follow him. That's what we're doing. We're look like, act like, and live like Jesus. And you will find rest for your souls. It's not meaning that there are not other tools that we can do to find rest. But so many times, there was moments in the book of Psalms over and over, they would have this break in Scripture. And it was like to rest. It was a pause. And Jesus, in his own way, taught us to go pray, to step back, know that you can't do this on your own. You need someone else to lean on. Not just individuals, which we do. But most of all, we need to lean on him, who is the one that's teaching us, the one that's saying, come to me with all your heavy burdens, and I'm going to give you rest. And it's going to be like rest you've never experienced. You don't have to be yoked up to something that's destructive, yoked up to something that's going to be heavy, too much for you to carry. You're yoking up to Jesus. So embrace the invitation to find real rest and real peace. I'm not saying that this is easy. I'm not saying that you're going to be a perfect individual and every moment you're going to. But he's showing us a path. He's showing us a way. He wants. If you invite someone to your house, you want them to what? Come in. Right? You show up to my house. Groups that we have I've had groups in my house for years. It's you walk in, you come in, you get yourself a cup of coffee, you eat what's on the table, you just come in. Jesus is saying, come to me. He's giving you the invitation to come on in and experience this rest. Take this yoke. Find rest for your souls. It is why we can try multiple things and never find true rest. Because with us and the journey we're on as a church, right? You hear him say it every week. We're on this journey. We're imperfect people, and we're trying to align ourselves with a heart, soul, mind, and strength that finds healing and a way that we can be whole if we live by the principles Christ lays out. And these are the principles of come. Yoke up with the right person. Yoke up with Jesus. And learn from him. So, let's close our eyes for a moment. And just for a moment, whether you're here or online, and you think about the steps that Jesus had laid out. And if you think about it this way, he laid out a process to find rest. And he leads us through this process so that we ultimately can find that true rest and peace in our lives. And that we can quit carrying the things that you were never meant to carry. And you might have carried those because of family patterns you saw, traits that they had that you picked up. You might be carrying burdens of sin. You might be carrying burdens of just trauma in your life. You might be carrying burdens from work that you dealt with. And you're carrying these things and you're worrying and it's causing stress and anxiety that you were never meant to carry. And so Jesus offers this to us. And he says, come to me. So, what burden are you carrying this morning? What are you carrying? What's heavy on your heart? What is the thing you don't want to bring up? Because there's so much there, and it is so heavy, and it is so hurtful. You're afraid what someone might think in your community. You're afraid what Jesus might think. And he's telling his kids in the most beautiful way. The invitation is open to you. And if we come to him with the trauma, with the hurts, the burdens, the sin, if we come to him, we can give those to him. You might over and over have to give it to him on a daily basis. God, Jesus, take this. I don't want to carry this on. You might need a community to come alongside you. You might need some real friends that can be honest and open and truthful and just create this safe place. See, I think Jesus created this safe place for his disciples, that he was able to have some real conversations with them and tell them, boys, hey, don't be afraid. I'm here. You can find this kind of rest too, even when the winds are blowing and the water's coming over the boat. And Jesus is big enough to carry everything that you've been carrying. He is big enough. He's able, more than able. Because he wants you to live in a relaxed, restful place in your spirit and in your soul. That no amount of vacation will help to find true rest for your soul. So, as we leave today and leave those online, what burden are you carrying? How do you usually find rest? And what can you do this week to rewire your heart, soul, and mind and find true rest? See all my friends online next week. Bless you guys.